I get students to really understand their Cambridge English exam in as little time as possible with the resources that I have. Hey there, language enthusiasts. Welcome back to English with Izzy. This is your go-to channel for advanced English and also for those of you who are preparing for the B2 First or C1 Advanced Cambridge English exam. I'm your trusted teacher, Izzy, and today we've got something really special in store for you. In this video, we're going to dive deep into advanced essays. We're going to break down an example of a C1 essay that I've written. I'm going to explain exactly what's good about it, not to boast, but to help you, so you can see exactly what you should be putting in your introduction, how you can develop your main paragraphs, what a good conclusion looks like, and most importantly, why. And this means you can replicate these exact strategies in your own writing at home. Now, whether you're looking to elevate your English skills or to prepare for the specific Cambridge C1 Advanced English exam, you're in the right place. Now, if you feel like it, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss one of these videos and we can face your exam together so it's just that little bit easier. Now, you guys might know already, maybe this is new information for you, but this is what a C1 Advanced essay task looks like. All the instructions are clearly included here at the bottom. You've got a question which needs to be answered, and you've got some subtopics here. Now, what I've done for you is I've written an example of a model answer, which is in my Cambridge Advanced Writing Guide, along with various other examples of text and writings that my students have done as well, so you don't only see model answers but realistic examples of students who have been practicing at home. And what we're going to do is break down this exam task. We're going to read through my model answer. I've already got some notes here, but I'm going to go into even more detail so you understand why I have written everything that I have. Not to make your day boring, but if you're watching this, it's because you're either going to take the C1 Advanced exam or because you're a teacher who's teaching students and you want to feel much more confident about what needs to be in those short texts that we have to write in the exam. Now, as you can see, it's not huge at all, right? In the C1 Advanced, you have to write between 220 and 260 words, which is not a lot. Maybe it feels like a lot, but compared to long university essays or theses, then it's actually quite a kind piece of text. And all we really have to do is write 4 paragraphs, which seems a lot less scary, right? Let's start by reading the exam task. Now, this one starts by saying, your class has attended a panel discussion on facilities which should receive money from local authorities. You have made the notes below. Now, this question here is key. And I want you to really read it well because one of the most common mistakes I see my students make when doing their writing tasks for homework is they forget that this is a question which needs to be answered. Which facilities should receive money from local authorities? Museums, sports centres, or public gardens? Now, we've got some extra notes here which might help stimulate those ideas if you're feeling a bit stuck. You can use them, you don't have to. And now this is the part we need to pay attention to the most. Write an essay discussing 2 of the facilities in your notes. So you're going to ignore one of these completely. I recommend choosing the 2 subtopics that you feel most comfortable talking about, maybe the ones that you know more vocabulary on, so you can write more proficiently on the topic. So, write an essay discussing 2 of the facilities in your notes. You should explain which facility is more important for local authorities to give money to, giving reasons in support of your answer. You can use the expressions if you want, but you don't have to. So, discuss 2 of them and explain which one is more important. That is what your essay needs to be about. You need to compare 2 of them and you have to make it clear which one you choose. You'd be surprised at how many people don't do this, at how many people write about the topic and write about it well, but forget to clearly answer this question. So what I did beforehand and what you should always do, both when practicing at home and on exam day, is to plan out your essay. And there are various reasons for it. I don't have time to go into all of the nitty-gritty details, but by writing down at least which points I'm going to mention in each paragraph, that means there's a much lower chance that I'm going to forget to answer the question, because here I've got my explanation, I've got my comparison, and in my conclusion I already know what I'm going to say. So there's a much higher chance I'm going to write an organized text that actually answers the question. All right, I'm going to read this essay out loud. If you prefer to read it in your head, then feel free to just skip ahead a little bit. If you'd like to listen to me and read it at the same time, then feel free to keep watching. So I've included a title, once simplistic, now futuristic. The 21st century is proving to be a time of huge change in society and to human habits. Rates of morbid obesity are higher than ever, and cities are far more concrete clad than they were 50 years ago. Although many facilities are in desperate need of state handouts, financing a few could have more beneficial results than others. So what I've included in my introduction, firstly, is a statement or a fact related to the topic that I'm going to write about. If we go back to the question, what I'm supposed to be arguing in my essay is which facility should receive more money from local authorities, museums, sports centers, or public gardens. Now, by including some facts on health, on obesity, I'm making it pretty clear from my introduction which direction I'm going to go in. I'm talking about the importance of health, or how serious ill health is nowadays, so that there's some kind of coherence in my essay. I'm suggesting from the beginning what my answer is going to be, so when the reader reads through my whole text, there's already a connection between the introduction, the main paragraphs, and the conclusion. Now, although I haven't made clear what my answer is going to be, I've written, in other words, what I'm going to be talking about in this essay. So I didn't say, in this essay, I'm going to talk about this. I'm saying there are many facilities that need help, but giving money to some could be more helpful than to others. So this is another way of saying there are lots of places that need money, but some are more important, and I'm going to tell you which one and why in this essay. Now, because I had to talk about two of these points, I've got two main paragraphs here to talk about those 2 points. Nice and easy. One paragraph for the first point and one paragraph for the second point. So I'm going to start by talking about the first one. Sports centers have existed for centuries due to humans' desire to maintain good physical form. With the rise of technology and new forms of sedentary entertainment, such as binge-watching TV shows and fiddling with gaming controls for hours on end, obesity and diet-related illnesses are sharply rising. Therefore, investment in sports centers with more innovative and cutting-edge exercise machines could hugely motivate citizens to get more active, thus decreasing the number of people suffering from such life-threatening illnesses. So I started this paragraph by making it clear that I'm talking about sports centers, but in a more complex way, right? I didn't say lots of people like to use sports centers, but I've said, well, for a long time in society, in human life, people have liked to exercise and be in shape. If you go to a museum where we can see Greek and Roman statues, you can tell that they like to work out. So I start by showing my support for sports centers. I say, well, first of all, they're popular. And then I start to explain what the problem is. I say, well, technology has become more advanced. People are sitting down more, and I give examples of why they are sitting down more. They're watching TV shows, they're gaming for hours and hours, and as a result, these bad things are happening, right? People are becoming more ill, obesity is becoming an increasing problem. So now that I've mentioned the problem, I'm going to explain why investing in sports centers could be beneficial, but I'm still not saying that it's the best. I'm just explaining why it could be a good thing to put money into, right? So I say, well, if you invest in this, if you put more advanced, more modern machines in there, then people could become more motivated. And as a result, health problems would decrease. So everything is really there for a reason, right? First of all, I introduced the topic and I mentioned the problem. And because this essay is talking about which one to give money to, I explain why giving money to this particular thing could be good. And I give lots of explanations. And that's exactly what you should do. Introduce the topic, give an example, and always give extra information to justify your point. There should be no random sentences here, but everything you're saying should be there for a reason. So now I've talked about my first point, which is sports centers, and I'm going to go on to the second one, which is public gardens. So the one I haven't talked about at all is museums, and it's fine. I don't have to because they tell me just to talk about two. Now, I've highlighted lots of linking words here, so you can see that I'm trying to make it clear that I'm giving examples and help write and organize text. So to show contrast, to show that I'm talking about a different topic, I use the word another. So another facility which is much appreciated across the globe is public gardens, which is just a fancy way of saying people love gardens everywhere in the world. But I just wanted to show off my vocabulary. Now I'm going to go in with a fact which justifies the point I'm going to make even more. Studies have shown that cities with a higher surface area of green spaces have citizens which are on average 57% happier than people who live in cities with little access to meadows and green squares. After all, we are animals whose roots lie in nature, not cities. Now, it's quite tricky to really write a good essay with so few words, right? I would have liked to write about this topic in more detail, but I have to stick within the word limit. And the examiners don't expect you to write a huge text. In fact, you shouldn't, because if you go over the word limit or if you write too much, it means that you're probably including unnecessary information that really doesn't need to be there and is not helping your point. Now, I completely made up this fact, and if it helps you write a good essay, I encourage you to make up a fact. And if including a fact in your paragraph helps make your point more believable, feel free to do so. And it doesn't have to be real, okay? They're not worried about if you know your statistics or not. What they want to see is that you know how to compare and contrast two different points, how to write an essay in a neutral or formal way, and in the end, how to clearly communicate your idea. So if you want to include a fact and you don't know anything about the topic, make it up. Now, hopefully it will be clear in this paragraph that I'm also talking about the fact that green spaces have a huge benefit to society, right? I'm saying people are significantly happier when we have gardens or green spaces or squares close to us, which is a great thing, right? And I explain why we are happy because of that reason. We are animals. Our past is in nature, right? 10,000 years ago, we didn't live in huge mega cities with underground trains and planes flying in the air. So I've made my point. I say people are happier and I give more information on that particular point. So I've talked about two different points here. I talked about the first one significantly more because it's the one I'm focusing on more in my essay, right? It's the one I want to go for in the end. But I've also tried my best to mention some of the good points on the second point. And now another really important part of your essay is the conclusion, because that's where your final answer is going to be. And it has to be crystal clear to the examiner what your view on this topic is. So have you answered the question? Again, I filled this with some good linking words just to make sure that it's much more coherent and easy to read. And my conclusion goes as follows. In conclusion, although public gardens are undeniably fundamental, I think that the benefits of having healthy citizens far outweigh the need for more green spaces. Ultimately, healthy people put less of a strain on the public health system and end up being far more productive employees. I therefore believe sports centers require more urgent assistance. Now, one of the strategies in my online course and also in my writing guide, if you decide that you want access to the complete guide on your writing exam, is to include a contrast in your conclusion. Because in the end, if you're asked to talk about 2 points, we need to mention those 2 points in the conclusion, right? So I'm saying, well, I recognize that green spaces do make people happy. I'm acknowledging, or I'm recognizing this point that I did talk about, but as I mentioned in my other paragraph, I think this one is more important because of these reasons. So I say, I think that having healthy citizens is much more important than green spaces. And I give extra information as well, just to make it clear, because if I say, yep, this one's better, and I don't explain why, there's a bit of confusion there, right? So I'm saying, well, when people are healthy, there are 2 aspects of society which hugely benefit, right? There's less stress on the public health system, and also people are far more productive at work, which in the end is good for the economy. And just to make sure that there is no confusion whatsoever, I've also made my final opinion crystal clear, although it's already very clear, right? I've decided to make it crystal clear in my final sentence. So instead of copying the words from the question and say, sports centers is more important for local authorities to give money to, I don't want to copy the words because I'm not demonstrating an advanced range of vocabulary, right? I'm going to write the same in other words. So I say, I therefore believe sports centers require more urgent assistance. And I know it takes lots of practice to be able to do this well yourself. And obviously I have years of experience writing advanced essays. However, if you follow these strategies and follow this plan, then it's much easier than we sometimes think to write an advanced essay. In your introduction, start with a fact. Make it clear what the topic is. You're going to write one paragraph on your first point. Make sure that you're always giving extra information to justify your point. Nothing should be written without a motive or without reason. You're also going to develop your second point. Make sure you give extra information and make sure you explain the points that you're including. In your conclusion, you might want to write a contrast and make it really clear what your final opinion is. Now, I know we ran through that really quickly and we just went through one essay and there are so many more things that we could have talked about. You might be thinking, oh, I want a copy of that model answer, or maybe you learned a lot today and you want to know how to do all of the writings for all parts of the exam. I'm going to link here my writing guide, which has at least 10 model answers plus loads of writings that my students have done. So if you want access to it, it's there. If not, that's absolutely fine. Anyway, guys, we've reached the end of this video. I hope you've learned something. I hope it's been productive and hopefully it wasn't a snooze fest. Hopefully you weren't falling asleep there in your bed or at your desk or at the park or wherever you happen to be. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it. I know it's a bit annoying that at the end of these YouTube videos, you see us asking you to subscribe or to like, but it really does help us know what kind of videos you like. If you want to turn on those notifications, then you'll be the first to know as soon as a video comes out. I'm also going to link some free resources down below. So if you want to keep learning more with me, then just check out the description below. Anyway, that's all for today, folks. Stay curious, stay learning.